My personal design style is about the combination between the contemporary and traditional that is enhanced by the mix between the hand-drawn and traditional overlay. This would allow my renders to look more presentable in a way it filters and emphasizes the quality of materiality against the project renders. As starting to be a first-year student, I experiment with different visual strategies in order to adapt well with the design I work on. Here's all my key conceptual ideas that were thought from the previous years till now. When the modern is combined with the traditional architecture, the result above. So therefore, my key one would be interaction, connection, appropriation, and materiality. So architecture can force people to connect. It can only place the crossing point, remove barriers, and make the meeting places useful and attractive. Then it's called Brown 2020. This is evident from the QB Center, which is described as the architecture can be improved, the social capital of its surrounding by creating the innovative ground for the social interaction among the different group of people. While in the bamboo dealer, the gray material bring the historical energy of the relationship between the Chinese data and their people, which is cleverly manipulate the outdoor Chinese traditional theater for the audience to interact and be a part of the design. Comparably with this above president, he's one of my design studio project. Present which is present the relationship between the Aboriginal people towards the land and nature with the use of abstract geometry inspired by TP shape. For me, the architecture is not just about crafting an object, it's about a place and its people. It is a medium to respect a local history, to address specific issues. Architecture should be able to connect the past and the future. So TNTN. Um, this is evident in the prison called the community center, not only inspired by the local history, but also accentuate the traditional aesthetic from Chinese historical precedent. They respect the past by bringing the fascinated mix between the new material and new expressions. In addition, my design studio also highlights the spiritual worshipping of Wonnarua people toward the father god by Ami, while presenting the traditional use of color. There was a total look and feel test, where you have an ordinary person like Kuro look at the two works side by side and say, do these things look substantially similar? Jeffrey Richard. This is another evidence about the appropriation in Grand Museum for two versions. In version in Spain, the use of abstract intense columns has been centralized display for the audience to enter from the lobby. Meanwhile, the New York version, the president is inspired by the use of intense solid flower skylight, which is symbolized as the heart of the building. Another example, which is my design, my composition studio, uh, that is appropriate by the multiple large art column that not only catch the audience attention but bring out the abstract effect from the external scale of the high ceiling like this. I also appropriate from one artist comic book where in the way that he used fish eye perspective from different angle as a floor plan while bringing the sense of joy for the viewer to read to my micro-detailing renders. When we work in the villages, it is more important to integrate the program with the village history and the current needs, then adapt the building techniques and material fitting without giving context on the budget. So TNTN. So comparably to these main of ideas, community center not only modernize the president but also keep the rare material from the previous resident. Um, this is intentionally emphasizes the traditional aesthetic from the Chinese architecture as a destruction of historically mature culture of form and material. And this is how I present the relationship material to the different element. For example, in this renders, I customize the tile floor, which is inspired by the one of her artist's artwork, where she used to worshiping her land and her father god, which is Miami. Meanwhile, this is from the imaginative architecture, where I combining different use of digital and hand drawn in order to show the abstract looking um, between in the space. And combining this, I finally create my own design identity. Moving forward, I would love to develop my design style more into the creative looking in a way that the client could have understood and follow through the whole process instead of predicting the final images if they of their own design precedent. Just like Bearable using the collage and hand-drawn technique rather than the renders to present her design. And yeah, also emphasize the mix between digital and hand-drawn in each design as well. And lastly is focusing on the material study, where, for example, in this precedent where they used stainless steel, it, which is intended to filter the interior and exterior spaces while catching the friendly greeting from the two different spaces. And that's it. Thank you.